Hey, everybody.
What's
Perfect on
up?
time. We are the Heels of Time. This is Theo and Derek coming at you live, 4 o'clock.
Yeah,
And even if you're not catching us live, it's all good. We don't care. But we do care if you like and subscribe to our channel, though. So please do so at your
that's right.
earliest convenience, because that is always good for us.
Mm-hmm.
So today, Derek, we're
Yes,
getting
sir.
closer and closer to the show. We
Oh,
got we
yeah.
got what, about a month and a half ish, month and a half
Hey,
ish.
they released a little clip.
They did release a little clip.
Yep, not much happens in it,
No,
just to let everyone know, but the production quality looks amazing for
seems
the
pretty
show.
good. Yeah, seems pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they have already made a change for
That's
an
right.
actor. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
see what happens. Hopefully it doesn't matter too much. Although ironically they look really similar to each other. So if they sound the same, I don't think we're even gonna notice a difference. As bad as that sounds.
Technically, if they did it right, they do it right when some changes were going on,
And then it wouldn't matter anyway, and
and then it wouldn't
it's
matter.
irrelevant. So that could be interesting. So anyway, today we have an interesting one for you guys. We have
Oh, for
another
sure.
we have another female character.
Mm-hmm.
She's she's interesting to say the least.
Would you say this is gonna fit into a Halloween theme?
I mean, yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, she's not
Yeah,
a black cat,
not exactly.
not exactly, but she is like the night
Mm-hmm.
in terms of potentially a moon character.
Mm.
And who we're going to cover today is the one and only Lanfear.
All right.
And what we think is somebody that she resembles in mythology or mythological creatures would be the Greek goddess of the moon,
Okay.
Selene,
All right.
also known as Luna in the Roman pantheon. And
Okay. Makes
ironically,
sense.
they're really almost identical. That there's like no difference between the two. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah, they're like the same. So, uh, shall I just break it down for him, Derek?
Oh, yeah. Go right
All
ahead.
right, all right. So she's actually a Titan. So she actually predates the normal quote
Interesting.
unquote the 12 of the Greek pantheon. She's like
Mm.
the OG, so to speak, like original goddesses. But she's the goddess of the moon. And I don't mean like, oh, she's like the night or the heaven and the moon and the stars. No, no, no. She is like the literal moon. Like you
Mm.
take the moon, that is her. Period. Um,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, she's not a moon goddess. Not,
So
so
it's kind of like if you see her on Earth walking around, then the moon is not up there.
kind of, yeah. I mean, yeah. It's
Okay.
it's it's again weird, and of course you got to take it as not quite super literal, but
Sure. Sure.
in all practical purposes, yes, she is like the moon. Now you can say, well, isn't like Artemis or Hecate? Aren't they moon goddesses too? Yes, but they're different. They're
Mm.
like you're not really going to see Artemis during the day, so to speak. You're not going to see
Okay.
Hecate during the
Sure.
day, so to speak. Um, they're think of them as like snipers. You don't really want to see them. I
Okay.
mean, Artemis is like a hunter, so if you see her, you're probably dead.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying.
So they would use like the guise of night to do their adventuring kind of thing, whereas Selene is literally the moon,
Right. Okay. No, I think I understand. So it's like one
sun
is
and the
kind of
moon.
like actually the celestial body, and the others kind of have to do with what things you might do at night.
Yeah, and that's a good way to put it. Not
All right.
exact, well, not exact exact transliteration, but close enough
Sure.
for our purposes. Whatever is good enough.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So she's an interesting one. She does like to ride a horse or a
Mm.
chariot. Typically she rides side saddle, so she's a proper lady.
Okay. Sure.
And when she's drawn by the chariot, it's almost like Pegasus, like two Pegasi or whatever you want to call them, because there's usually a pair of them, and they're winged
Okay.
steeds. So again, think about cycle. What's the opposite of the moon? The sun.
Sure.
And, cyclic. So, the
Sure.
moon comes around. Yay, I'm going to ride my horse. Do. And then the sun chases the moon, or the moon chases the sun, depending on how you want to look at it. But it's the constant moon, sun cycle. So she's depicted with, as obviously, she is a female. And she is, like, feminine. But she has a crescent moon on her crown. And almost, if you didn't know better, you could almost say it was like two horns, almost like a longhorn.
Oh, very cool.
So they're not like horns, like, but they're like this. Like, like
if you
curve.
put the crescent in the right spot,
exactly,
the 2 points would.
Yep,
Yeah,
almost like
sure.
some samurai would have that as a symbol on their helmet.
Yeah,
it's like the same.
Exactly
It's like the same as that. She also has a shiny cloak. Shimmery makes sense. Moon is kind of shimmery if you think about how we would say the moonlight is shimmering.
Okay, for sure.
Sometimes it's also said that she has a team of oxen instead of like the steeds, but
nice.
Oxen, steeds, horns. They all kind of. I wouldn't say the same, but kind of all the same. So the interesting story about her is she like a great goddess in the scheme of things? No. Does she have like crazy powers and she'll zap people and do crazy stuff?
Okay.
No, that's not her thing. Although she did love, she had one mega lover. Like, she totally loved this dude. He was a shepherd prince. Go figure. Shepherds. Hey, right? Shepherd. Huh. Little hint.
Interesting.
Of what Derek's probably going to hit up on in a minute. Endymion. So he was gorgeous. Like, he was like super handsome and was like a really damn handsome dude. And she was just like head over heels for him. He loved her. Everybody's happy. Except one kind of thing. Obviously, he's mortal, right? So she's not mortal. It's kind of a conundrum, right? Therefore, she's like, oh no, this beautiful, beautiful mortal will grow old, nasty, and die. And of course, I am immortal, so I will never have him again. Oh no, what to do? Now, it gets a little funny because, Zeus hates the Titans, but in this case, he doesn't. So she's like, Zeus, help me, bro. Help me. And he's like, oh man, I hear your plight, girl. Okay. Yeah, I think I can help him. That's pretty cool. I like your love story. But as we've heard in the past, Zeus is kind of a dick, right?
He's really rude.
He seems real cool at first, but he always has like a trick up his sleeve. He could almost be I could almost say he's a trickster god, but he's not. He's just like, I'm the king and I'm going to do what I want to who I want whenever I want. And that's just how it's going to be. So he goes up to this dude and he's like, man. Cracks his knuckles, flexes his muscles and stuff. And he's like, so, Mr. Prince, Selene loves you, bro. And he's like, I know. I love her so much, too. He's like, but you're going to grow old, right? He's like, yes, I know. That's not nice, but that's what us mortals do. He's like, so, got a question for you. He's like, yeah, go for it. Do you want to see how you die? He's like, you'll show me? He's like, sure, go for it. He's like, cool. Shows him. Grows old, decrepit, nasty, wrinkly, gross. And he's like, oh, dude, I don't want to have that. He's like,
Dude.
So you don't want to have that, right? He's like, yes. He's like, well, I do have a way to, keep you around forever, looking how you do right now. He's like, oh, for real? He's like, yeah, what do I need to do? I can kill you. So you can just die right now. He's like, okay. Or you can be immortal, bro. He's like, oh, I can be immortal? He's like, yes. He's like, oh my gosh, I can be with my love forever? Oh, she'll love you forever. Yes. He's like, I think I'll choose that. He's like, very good, very good. I can grant you immortality. And then puts him in an eternal slumber without him aging ever.
Oh man.
Yes.
Ruthless.
Beyond. So literally, he put him in a cave, and that was it. Like, he literally went to sleep forever. But he looks the same. Man. So yeah, it kind of sucked for Edemion, because yeah, he kind of got the bad end of a stick.
Well, he's toast.
I mean, technically never toast. And yes, Selene loves him forever, obviously. She visits him in the cave, go figure, every night. That is like her mega love. Yeah, she never really gets over him. Because technically he's still alive, right? It's not like he ever actually died. So that's kind of a tragic tale. But if you're noticing a pattern, when a mortal and a god get together, usually some crazy stuff happens, right?
Definitely.
If a god loves a mortal, really interesting things happen. And 8 out of 10 times, there's another god that interferes with something. Zeus does his thing with a lot of people, right?
Oh, yeah.
Herod gets him back like every freaking time. One way or another. But she's like, she can't kill Zeus. They're immortal, right? So what does she do? Zaps out the human lover or the kid, or she tries to murder whatever. Zeus is kind of the same way. Like, it doesn't really say that he's like attracted to Selene. It doesn't really like say that, oh, they got together, and at least not that I know of. So she just goes to him as like the mega guy. It's like, you can make things happen, man. He's like, yeah, I can. Punishment. He can be a little rough like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so he's a punisher. Especially if you do things kind of like outside the norm. Although he can do it though, because it's okay for him.
Oh, of course.
But on the flip side, he gets punished too, just in a slightly slap on the wristy kind of way. So that's Selene in a nutshell. There's a couple different myths about Edemion, but for all practical purposes, it's all the same. He literally just doesn't want to die, therefore he grants himself immortality, but he gets tricked and he goes to sleep, doesn't age. Technically, that sucks for him. Yeah, it does. But like I said, Selene, she loves the guy, and she'll stop at nothing to be with him for like ever. So she's almost I would say she's like a tragic figure, but man, she's kind of a tragic figure in my mind, because she never ever can really get over him.
Oh no, that works.
Yeah,
that definitely works.
Yeah, I was gonna say it definitely works for our purposes, because she's very very much like a particular like Lanfear, I think.
Well,
so Derek, what do you think? Does it sound? Does it bring up some interesting points?
For sure, and I'm gonna jump around a bit like I usually do.
Always.
So for starters, let's go way back in Rand land. So 3,000 years before Rand is walking around, it's the age of legends. Okay, and at the end of this, they have the War of the Power. Now, what's interesting, and this is a fine point, what starts the War of Power? Were there always these eyeless murderer walking around and Trollocs just hiding under people's beds or whatever? No. You get the hint that at some point, Wheel of Time the world works pretty much how our world works, but things changed at some point. So this is one of those kind of big changing times. So Lanfear, her character, and she has a different name at this point, not no big deal. 3,000 years ago, they're channeling the one power, so they're kind of like male and female Aes Sedai, which you don't really typically see in the series. So she though claims that, like, this whole men working by themselves and women working by themselves, that's like not good for equality and all this other stuff. Wouldn't it be better if we just had one power that we could both work together? So in this big white dome, she creates this tool, and uses it to create something called the boar. And the boar turns out to be the Dark One. So that power that both men and women were supposed to be able to use equally was something that you could kind of equate to like kind of primordial power, like true power, not really bad in the sense of it's going to make you do bad things, but if you had an idea in your head and you're like, man, if I could just only get away with it, then it could push you over the edge, because it would literally be like, well, here's the power to get away with whatever that thing was. So what's interesting is, and I'm putting the cart in front of the horse a little bit, but if we're just like, yep, Lanfear's the moon, she's Selene, I rest my case, court adjourned. I'm not trying to do that, but what I'm saying is, if we rest that point for just a minute, in this story, it's kind of funny because when she has a relationship with the dragon, the original OG dragon, Lews Therin, and he kind of represents primordial energy. He has this jet black hair, and he's just this tall, stoic, kind of always do the right thing kind of guy. So Lanfear wants to be in a relationship with this dude. He rejects her for what? A woman with sun golden colored hair. Interesting choice. So you almost have this dynamic of who's going to have the real power, like in a primordial kind of god situation. Oh, well, the moon is one of my favorites, so maybe the moon. Oh no, actually it's going to be the sun. So you have kind of that situation, I would argue, going on. And the boar opening up the Dark One's prison, well, what kind of primitive astrological observation does that sound like? I would say like a solar eclipse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, oh yeah, the power got sucked out of the sky or whatever. So I would say there's other kind of hints that maybe there are other stories that we could investigate here in the future about how she might be some more primitive moon instead. So now jumping back forwards, though, come on, she is, because here's the case dismissed, court adjourned. Her name in one part of the books, one of her alternate aliases is literally Selene. So you have Selene and then Selene. And what's interesting about this, let me just elaborate a little bit on this point. You see Selene and you're not quite sure how old she is, and suddenly she's like in her 20s. And before you go, well, maybe she was a little bit older. Okay. When you see her as Lanfear, she's a beautiful woman, but she's definitely like in her 40s in appearance, something like that. Okay, that's kind of weird. There's this other sighting, Lanfear sighting in Randland, where there's this old woman covered in warts and moles. And we presume that this is also Lanfear. And her name that she goes by is Sylvie, kind of like silver, right? So you have this young spring chicken moon, kind of like, a waxing quarter moon. And then you have this kind of middle-aged moon, your half moon. And then you have your waning moon, right? That's your elderly woman, okay? So we have those three dynamics kind of there, which not exactly maybe represented in the Greek story, but these are just kind of other kind of moon stories, that we can associate to her. So kind of guilt by association, right? So what's interesting is one of Selene's symbols is the crescent moon. So when Lanfear dresses either as, well, I guess Lanfear or Selene, she dresses in all silky whites. Think about the clouds around the moon,
Mm-hmm.
probably. And then she's adorned with silver colored jewelry, just silver. Okay. So, and some of the silver colored jewelry is our crescent moons, at least one piece around her belt. So she has that symbol going for her. What's interesting is uh, when we're looking at the prophecy within the books, the dragon reborn, he comes back, and Theo and I make a compelling argument that he comes back as a solar deity. So what's interesting about that is the old version of the dragon represents, our theory says, well, he's more of a primordial being. So not like the sun, but so much as like the concept of darkness or maybe
Mm-hmm.
water or something like that.
Which is probably
So
good because at least in like the Greek Titan thing,
yeah.
Helios, people may know him. He's like the Greek sun god, like
Mm,
of the sun. That's her
okay.
bro.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh
that'd
no.
be kind of gross. Just saying.
Yeah, okay. No, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
Just saying.
So, no, that's funny. So, going back to man, that's funny. You made me lose my point.
Sorry,
No,
bro.
that's okay. So, no, it's all good. So, well, I'll just say this: Selene is represented as someone that's very smooth, and often in mythology, if you have two brothers and one's the sun, one's the moon, the one that's the moon will be described as smooth, and the sun representing the sun will be like hairy or have a big beard or have long hair or something like that.
Ginger.
So there you go, or possibly red hair like Rand does in his case. So okay, going back to that point of view, um, now Lews Therin was like darkness, but Rand with his red hair and these properties that we listed in a previous episode, he definitely could be the sun. And to me, it's worth pointing out. Well, the moon is typically depicted as being jealous of the sun, right?
Yep.
So if you have Rand al'Thor being the sun, you have Lanfear being the moon. Well, that'd be interesting. Well, it turns out that that's how he wrote the character. Lanfear is incredibly jealous of Rand. Doesn't want him to be around any other women. Wants him to herself. So that's interesting, and kind of the point of view of sometimes the moon being siblings and they're kind of fighting for power. Well, there is this one theory that Lanfear actually disguises how strong she is, and she might actually be as powerful as Rand is, which would be kind of weird. In Wheel of Time, they tend to make the women a little bit weaker than the men, but it's not a tit for tat. It's not a 1-to-1. It's like, in general, the guys will be a little bit stronger, but every now and then there'll be a more powerful woman. So it would just be that much more remarkable for Lanfear to be like maybe that strong, as like strong as anyone ever could be. So one kind of big point to tie together is, of course, Rand al'Thor being a shepherd, and you have that story where Lanfear loves a shepherd, or
Yeah.
Selene
Yeah.
Selene loves the shepherd, and in this case, once the dragon becomes reborn as Rand al'Thor, now he's a shepherd, and now Lanfear loves this shepherd. And big spoiler, and it's not exactly, you don't really see this happen forever, but the way that the book series concludes, um, arguably there is kind of a Sleeping Beauty sequence involved. So I if you got there, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not gonna say anything super specific this time, but yeah, no, I see a lot of parallels here. It seems like it's very possible that she represents a host of moon deities. I would argue, based on the other kind of background that we provided. But I mean, she definitely represents that jealous moon, so to speak. But she is a mysterious character with a shepherd lover. So I think that's really all I have to say And on that point, so I'm going to hand it back to you, Theo.
Cool. So I got some more tidbits for you guys.
Oh no, go for it.
Just Zeus. Zeus didn't really love her, but he still banged her out. Just
Oh
so you know.
no.
So yeah, they did technically have 3 children. They're all I wouldn't say related. I say they're related, but one, we don't really know much about, but they think maybe she's like the full moon.
Oh,
One
okay.
is the dew, like the morning dew,
The morning dew. Yeah.
and another one is just kind of just another weird one. Just yeah, she doesn't really count like a spring, but yeah, whatever. Now we'll say
Weird
this.
kids.
Yeah,
Go
it gets
for
a
it.
little more weird,
Good.
I'll do you want me to sandwich the crazy weird one
Oh,
in
go for
between
it.
normal,
Whatever
or
you're
you want to
feeling,
end with
man.
the crazy? Oh no. Well,
End with the
anyway,
crazy. Yeah,
she
go ahead.
technically did kind of get with her bro. Maybe.
Oh no.
Um,
Oh no.
Yeah. So they did the Horai. They're goddess of the seasons. Makes sense, right? Because sun and moon. But that's kind of gross. So we'll just
Yeah, for sure.
we'll just like drop that, like, no. Now with Endymion, she did have some folks that you may have heard of before. The Menai, they were the people of the lunar, not the people, the goddesses of like the lunar months.
Oh, okay.
So more of the darker months, I guess you could say.
All right.
So that's cool. And then one that you probably have heard of before, because if you think about it, Endymion not choosing just to like die naturally and to like live forever because he's like kind
He's
of
so tired.
Yep. Kind of could be like selfish, right?
Oh
A
yeah.
little bit
Indulgent.
indulgent. So those two did have a kid called Narcissus.
Nice.
So if people remember what a narcissist is, that's the root of the word. And of course, he dies looking at himself because he drowns himself because he's like he loves himself so much he falls in love with himself.
What a fool.
Kinda. So I thought I would drop that
But it
down.
couldn't happen.
And then one that's pretty dope is there's a potential that she's related to the Nemean lion.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes. But how? It's just kind of constellation-ish.
Well, that's very interesting because there are 13 forsaken, 13 chosen ones, which is that's the maximum number of moons that can exist in a solar year. Usually you have 12, but sometimes you get that 13th moon.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think there's a very good chance that we can explore the Forsaken kind of representing either different constellations or different
types of
celestial
deities.
bodies or
Yeah.
something. Exactly. No, for sure.
Which makes sense because, ancient civilizations want to explain stuff. They didn't quite have science down, and everything had to have an explanation of some sort.
Well,
So that makes sense.
And they also enjoyed the idea of, well, if we're doing it down here, then they're doing some kind of version of it up there.
Right, exactly. So today, hopefully you guys enjoyed our show.
Yeah.
We definitely enjoyed doing some research and following up on it because, man, the more stuff that we dig into, the better it becomes. And at least for me, I don't know about if Derek can agree.
Oh, no, for sure. We definitely feel more comfortable playing around in this theory crafting world that we're making. No, for sure. We're kind of developing our own language, wouldn't you say?
I would
Like-
hope so.
Like just the way that if people follow us long enough, you'll know what I'm talking about, and you'll be able to catch up with us.
Yes. And again, like us, subscribe to us. We are the Heels of Time. We do welcome emails. We do welcome comments, criticisms. We take it in stride. if you have other like jewels of knowledge to lay down, hey, let us know, man. This how what we're all about. So
Or even if you
yeah,
have a topic that
yeah,
kind
something
of
that sounds interesting, go for it.
piqued your mind when you read the Wheel of Time and you didn't have time to take it apart,
I
maybe
mean,
we can take a look at it.
I dig that. See what the people want.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, like, subscribe. It's always a good thing. And again, I'm Theo. That's Derek. We are the Heels of Time. And have a good